What if the biggest threat to our health today isn't a disease, but stress? The constant pressure to perform, to succeed, to keep going even when we're exhausted. And the truth is, many people don't realize how much stress they're carrying until their body forces them to stop, right? My guest today understands that better than most people. Lolita Guairin is a six-time #1 Amazon best-selling author, stress management expert, coach, and speaker. And experiencing burnout herself, she developed the CALM process, a practical framework that helps people move from survival mode into clarity, resilience, and self-trust. Lolita, welcome to Voices Unfiltered.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
The honor's all mine, actually, to have someone of your caliber on the show. So thank you very much for making the time. I want to start with a big picture question. When you look at the world today, the pace of life, technology, social media, work pressures, what do you think is happening to our mental and emotional well-being right now? Overload.
Because we are all so much triggered with all of that technology because we immediately need to look at the phone, whatever it pings, because of the fear of abandonment. That actually goes back to our childhood experiences where we felt like the parent left the room and we feel that we've been abandoned. And then we will die because when you think from a child's perspective, if the parents will not take care of us, what can you do? So we carry that into our adult life. That's why there's so many of us want to participate everywhere, want to know everything what's happening. And right now with the social media, where we are included in so many groups, not in our immediate environment where you work, where your friends, your family, but we're connected to a world groups that never sleep. And we have this tendency of, oh, if I will miss something, then I need to know this in order for me to really survive. Because if I don't know something, I cannot control it. And that's really threatening.
True, isn't it? But then there's also the feeling of immediate gratification. And if you look at how people scroll through videos, and if a video is boring and it doesn't catch your attention in 5 seconds, you just move on, right? Are we creating a different type of human being, society, if you want to call it that, particularly with kids, immediate gratification?
Absolutely. And I come from a pedagogical university. I was studying back in Lithuania. For those who are listening in and thinking, she has a slight accent. Yes, I live in US, but I'm originally from Lithuania. And I was trained teacher, geography teacher, but nevertheless, we were studying a lot for, how the child grows up, what they need. And also when I was dealing with my own stress, and that's how I become my stress management expert, because I was very interested to see where that stress is coming from, why we behave that way. And it has a lot to do how you grow up because we learn from our parents. We learn the patterns from our parents in our environment. And, I can say just recently, I think it was like a week ago, I saw this great research that actually was done on mice that can answer your question very beautifully. So, of course, I don't remember now who did the research and when that was, but I'm very bad with dates. But the point was that the researchers had a room and they put four mice, totally of eight, but four were female and four were male. And so they were not threatening them. They just let them be with lots of entertainment, whatever they want to do, run around, eat plenty of food. You just live your life for them. And what started happening is that a lot of that mice obviously got a lot of kids, and it was going to the point where there was so much of mice in the room that they were like, there's no personal space per se. And what start happening, the males start grooming only themselves. They start taking care of only themselves and completely were not paying attention anymore to anything that's happening. It could be threatening. It could be somebody's fighting. They don't care. They take care only themselves. So then they got very groomed and very fat and they were just sitting in one place. And what happened with the females, they lost interest in males like that because, well, when you compare to our society, this is like, we can't relate, can we? And then what happened, there was no mating happening anymore. And they all died at the end.
Wow, they all
So
died.
the research was explained by for those scientists that said the overstimulation really killed the mice because they were also given everything immediately that they wanted. They wanted rest, they can sleep, nobody's hunting them. They have so much food that they can eat as much as they want to. And overstimulation through the social contact. because you could not even be with yourself, with your own thoughts. And you were so closed off that you couldn't take it anymore. And then so naturally psyche says, okay, I'm just going to do this little thing about myself because the rest of the world's going to drive me crazy. And that was the explanation. So of course, the video was put to warn us of thinking, listen, you really need to take care of your own mental state. And that's, we need to do meditation and different things and separating yourself from other people so you actually can hear yourself and you can take care of yourself. And that's, I think, do you think that's a great answer to your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that leads me to the next one of when I'm alone, but I'm with my phone and I'm on social media, am I by myself?
No, you're not by yourself.
Do you think people actually realize how stressed they are? Or has stress become so normal that we no longer even question it? It's part of it. It's part of what we do every day.
I think that it's when I became ill because I was stressed out and then derail my hormones, so I end up in the hospital and all of that. I really start questioning, why am I behaving the way I'm behaving? Why am I so stressed out and other people not? And there are a lot of reasons why someone could be stressed, but then came to the point of realizing that our society wears stress as a badge of honor, and it's not that life became stressful now more than there was, let's say, 100 years ago before the cell phones. Life was always stressful, but it's all about how you look at things. When I became coach and I would go to networking events and wanted to build my coaching business, definitely I come to the group of people that are very stressed because, they want to have the business, they have employees. And so stress is more than just somebody who goes to work and from 8 to 5 and they have it all planned out. And then what I noticed that the moment when I introduce myself and I say, yeah, I'm a stress management coach, they're like, oh my gosh, I bet everybody needs you. Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out right now. And I will say, would you like a stress management coaching session? I even can give you pro bono, like we can exchange you don't even need to pay anything, because usually those businesses who are going to networking events, they're looking for revenue, right? They're not looking just to hang out with people. And I'm like, I understand it's very stressful financial situation, but how about, I can give you like 30 minutes coaching call that make, change your stress levels. And I got a pushback right away. They immediately will start telling me, no, I don't have time. I don't have, no, 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 all those. It really helped me a lot when I started following Dr. Abramati. Maybe I'm pronouncing his last name. This okay? But he talked a lot about the childhood trauma. When I was really digging into my own stress and how I manage it, I realized that there was a lot of childhood trauma that, for example, my dad was alcoholic. He was very functioning alcoholic, but he was a lot of times violent. So somebody who grows up in the environment that they've been always threatened and always anxious and always waiting what's next going to happen, and really afraid for their life, grows up very different adult. When somebody actually grew up in the environment where they saw their parents calm, in control, or know how to manage their stress, because we teach our kids how to manage our stress or anything else in life by example. So when I realized that there's a lot of stress, how we handle stress really comes from what we learn how to manage it. That totally makes sense, because I remember when Dr. Gabor Mate said, if you grew up in the environment where you not been given enough attention or appreciation for who you are, without doing anything, just who you are, you're an amazing child. If you didn't grow up with that, you may realize that I can be fed, because that's how child thinks, right? Or can be safe or get mom and dad's attention when I perform, when I bring good grades, when I'm a good behavior. And then I'm going to be alive. You take this to adult life, and when somebody's listening now, they're like, yeah, okay, this is so funny. But when you look at your adult life, this is what we do. We go to work, we produce. We are afraid to stop because we are afraid that if I'm going to do some self-care, if I take 5 minutes to meditate or whatever, or take care of my own needs, I'm going to be discarded from the group. And that is another thing of missing out when we, talked about when we started our chat. It's about, we are afraid to see that something's going to happen out of our control. This is all fear-based. So then we are afraid to stop producing. And I deal a lot of with the high producers like CEOs, and they're very, very successful, and they all stressed out. It's like, when is enough? I mean, how many millions can you make? But they keep on running towards that horizon because they feel it's not enough. Because we think if we're going to stop producing, meaning you're going to stop wearing that badge of honor that you stressed out, you're going to die. So that's why when we meet someone, we do not hear, I mean, I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods, but here in US, if you ask someone, hey, how's it going? What you been up to? You constantly hear how busy that person is, how stressed out they are. They always will tell you, oh my gosh, I just had my mother visiting, and then I had to put the kids to school, and then the youngest one just started high school, and then we did this and that, and oh my God, you don't hear somebody says, oh my gosh, I love my life. This morning I had coffee and I was looking at my garden, and, I noticed there were bees, like you don't hear that. You always hear people being very busy because we wear stress and that busyness as a badge of honor, because we want to show you need me, don't discard me. I am the member of this group that brings value. I believe all the stress that we're experiencing is really fear-based.
This badge of honor, which you make reference to, and I want to ask if there's a direct link between lack of sleep and stress. And reason being is there was a doctor that I met, and he mentioned we need to stop glorifying this lack of sleep. Exactly to what you're saying, the badge of honor, that I only sleep 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day. How are you functioning? And he says it's completely wrong. We need to stop glorifying that. Because when you hear friends speak, it's about bragging how little I sleep and how much I can do. Is there a direct link between lack of sleep and stress?
That is, I think, lack of self-care. This is somebody who will be bragging about how little they sleep. That's exactly what they're showing. Is I am not taking care of myself because I want to show you how useful I am. Look how great I'm doing. So if, let's say, in our society, we will say that suddenly now having 7, 8 hours of sleep is something that you can brag on, that will flip. You will hear people saying, oh my gosh, I had such a good sleep, 7, 8 hours. What? You don't sleep 8 hours? Oh my gosh, let me get you this thing that I'm doing. That's why also what you can, if you into self-development, and there's a lot of people now that they will brag how much they meditate and how much they're taking care of themselves. But this is exactly the same thing. It's just a different card in your hands. It's still showing, look at me. I'm needed. I'm useful. Don't discard me.
Yeah, absolutely. You spoke about high performing individuals. We spoke about CEOs, captains of the industry. Why do you think so many high performing people quietly carry enormous levels of stress that nobody sees?
Once, when I did a lot of research about how we handle stress, why we're so stressed, it really comes from how someone values themselves, and also, again, of that fear of survival. And a lot of those overachievers, they come from a lot of childhood trauma. And I like watching documentaries about famous people. And just like on Netflix, for example, you can look like Stallone or Beckham, George Michael, the few that I just watched on Netflix documentaries. All of them had very, very violent, emotionally family situations where the parent told the child, you nothing. Whatever talent you have, it's wrong. So then those individuals grow up hyper achievers because they want to prove that they're worthy of something. They're worthy of love. And if somebody can now listening and they're rolling their eyes and think, my gosh, I had a great childhood. Wonderful. But not everybody have that. And also everyone has childhood trauma. Everyone. Just the human experience of being born, you already start in this life with trauma. What is trauma? Something that is outside of your normal. What is stress? Outside of your normal. Anything, even, when I do a lot of speaking gigs, and when I go to a company and I speak, I usually get someone comes to me later and they say, I am not stressed out at all. I never experienced stress. And I look at them and I say, so why are you wearing clothes? You're wearing clothes because it's cold outside, right? Well, yeah, because you don't want your body to stress. You know what's going to happen when you go naked into the snow. You will feel pain. You will feel cold. Your body is stressing out because it needs to be protected, needs to be taken care of. So stress, yes, it is a normal thing in our lives as a signal to say, hey, slow down, do this, take care of yourself. It's like an alarm that tells you you need to survive, so hence this is what you need to do. But when someone comes from the environment, like for example, I personally, when my dad was alcoholic and I was feeling threatened every day to go home after school, I was afraid. My anxiety was always high. That was my threshold. It's like this is why that's why I mean, that's my default. I mean, that's why I always there. So what happened when I came to the new country, started building my business and all of that, stress is accumulated to the point then when on top of that my body said, listen, you cannot do this anymore. And with high achievers who are running towards horizon, it always depends also why is that you're doing it. When I have coaching clients that come to me and they said, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I have this company to run. I have my family to take care of. I have my aging grandparents now and all of this. I always tell them, you need to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. And here's one simple test right now for those who's listening in. I'm going to give you one little exercise that you can do every day. How about we'll use cell phones for something good? Put an alarm on to ring every hour. And then whatever rings, of course, if it's safe, stop whatever you're doing. And for 1 minute only, let's say if you're sitting on the computer there, you just stop what you're doing, close your eyes, and you just be mindful. Listen to your body for 1 minute. And then do as many of those breaks as you can during the day.
Okay, so I'm actually going to do that right now. So every hour, post this podcast on the hour. I'm going to set my alarm for 1 minute, yes?
Yes, you can do for 1 minute. And just if you allow yourself to have a longer break, that's better. But even if, let's say, you're in the grocery store and you're standing in line and your alarm goes off like, hey, you need to take a break. You can just be in the moment, mindful, listening into yourself, feel your body, ask yourself, why am I? Okay, appreciate something, just stopping this, just taking a break. When I start, gigs, I usually have a glass with water and then, or I tell them to, raise their hands. And then I tell them I will let you know when you can put those hands down. And then I start introducing myself. And, after like a minute, people start saying, oh my gosh, my hands are hurt. I'm like, can I put them down now? And they say, that is stress. But if you will put your hand down and you're going to get up and then you're going to put it down, you can play with that hand all day long, right? So this is how it is with your stress as well. When you give yourself opportunity to stop and say, okay, where am I? I'm going to replenish myself now just by stopping whatever I'm doing. You're giving yourself that break. But also what's happening at that moment, you take care of your needs. Why is that important? Because when you take care of yourself, you build trust in your own abilities. You are building resilience that will help you to take care of your stress right now or in the future. What is really mental stress when you think about it? It's about something that you cannot control, that is threatening to you. Most of the time, that has to do with the future, but because you cannot control the future, right? So when you build resilience and trust in yourself, that you will be able to take care of no matter what comes your way, you stop fearing the future, hence your stress levels goes down. So when you take time to take care of yourself, really, you building that resilience and you don't have to meditate for 3 hours, nothing like that. But just that little thing right now that I told you, that you can take as many breaks as you can, you will show yourself that you're taking care of your needs. And for those who listen in and start rolling their eyes and saying, oh, yeah, whatever, 1 minute, I'm not going to take care of 1 minute. I always do that test with my clients that come to me the first time, because their reaction to it is going to tell me everything, how they manage stress. So for those who thought to themselves, oh, come on, 1 minute, that's not going to change my life. Or for those who said, this is ridiculous. I mean, 1 minute, I don't have time for this. What is that showing? That's showing you not taking care of your own needs. And then you need to ask yourself, why do I think it will not help me? And then that's the questions. This is the patterns that are going to come back from your childhood, how you learn what stress is. You immediately can think, well, my mom would laugh at that. My guru will point a finger and say, that's not going to be enough, 1 minute. So it really goes to what validation you're seeking. So this means you're not the one decides what is good for your life, but somebody else decides what's good for you. That's, again, going into that trauma of survivalism, really. So those who did the exercise, and I salute you that you took the phone and like, you know what, I'm going to put this right now.
Right now.
So you're taking care of your needs. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I guess in the next one, I'll let you know how it goes. And
yes,
absolutely. Lalita, is it okay if we talk a little bit about you?
I would love that.
Sure. So I mean, you talk about stress, but not just from a professional aspect. I mean, you're talking about stress from your experiences. Can you take us back to that time in your life? I know you touched on it very briefly, but can you go a bit deeper?
So as I mentioned before, I came from Lithuania to US because I heard that's where the all the money grows. You know, that tree that everybody comes get their cash. That's a joke, by the way, those who didn't get it. I came for my American dream, and I knew that this is a land of opportunities if I want to work. And obviously, I came with a very high work ethics. So I was ready to sacrifice myself for whatever that is. And I had a successful job, and I realized that I love what I do. I love helping people to the point where my weekends, there were no more. I would work, even Saturdays or even Sunday mornings, still working of something that I had to do a previous week or prepare for the week ahead because I didn't want my project managers to be disappointed in me. I didn't want my coworkers to be waiting on me. I had the difficulty of telling no to other people. You know how it is. If you are nice, they're just going to give you more to do. If you say, I'm sorry, I cannot do this anymore, I was afraid I will be fired for not producing. Again, that was really dipping into my childhood trauma because I wanted to be productive. I didn't want that people will reject me. I didn't want that now I will be disappointment in front of my family, my friends, even myself. So I worked to the point that, we talk about sleeping. Yes, sleep was very bad because I was overloaded. I barely had any good food because I had no time. The only exercise, and I laugh about it, but that's sad. I said the only exercise I did is to get up from my desk and use the ladies' room. That was the exercise all I did because it's like I don't have time for that. I need to go, go, go. I need to produce because stress and anxiety was already very high for me naturally. When I added more of no good sleep, like you mentioned before, a lack of good nutrition, no exercises, and definitely I cut a lot on my social interactions with my friends as well because I would work all Saturday. When my friends were getting together, I was working on the report at night, um, and that impacted my body so much, and then really messed up my hormones. And for women who listening and they know what that means. When your hormones messed up, then it derails the whole system, and I don't want to get too much into details, but I end up in the emergency room, and pretty much that's what he told me. Like that's just basically stress because I just ran to the point that my body said enough, and I couldn't believe it because I was in my 30s. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like only old people get sick, I'm in my 30s. Shouldn't be. I should be. This is the prime. And when I realized that I don't want to take any pills, also in our society these days, everything is sold with a pill. Like, hey, take this pill and you're fine. And I was like, no, I want to do something that is natural. And that was the moment when I start digging into why am I so stressed out? Why am I reacting the way I'm reacting when other people in the same situation stay calm? And that's how I discovered that it had to do a lot of the environment that I grew up, because that is how I learned how to manage stress or how to not manage stress and where all my insecurities and triggers came from. And then I start coaching other people because I just love helping everyone. Actually, there was a party and the lady said, I love what you talk about and you're so passionate. You should coach other people. And I was like, oh, I had no idea I could do that. And that's how it started. So I started writing books, inventing the calm process, and being a speaker and a coach. And more than that, right now, I coach other people how to bring their own life story into the box and make an impact in the world as well.
The part where you were in the emergency room, was that the moment in your life when you realized that something had to change? Was that the actual moment, the point?
Yes, absolutely. Because the doctor told me if you have come yesterday, it could have been too late. That was a huge wake up call. I was like, okay, I really need to start paying attention what my day looks like.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to talk about you being an immigrant and the pressure. And, you spoke openly about the pressure of building a whole new life in a whole new country. And, for many immigrants, often that's a unspoken expectation to succeed, to prove the sacrifice of leaving home was worth it. What kind of stress does that create that others may not fully understand?
That is the pressure that doesn't really have any other options. You have to succeed. It's not even a question because if I would not succeed, then I become a disgrace to my family. It's like you just spend all this money and this time and energy to go somewhere and you couldn't deliver. On top of it, I'm only one child. So the pressure was enormous because it's not like, my parents have other three kids and okay, well, one didn't succeed. Maybe another one will bring fame to the family that we can be proud of. It was only me. So, and it was not only proving to my parents or my friends, but also proving to myself that I can do this. And it doesn't matter how I'm going to do this, but there is no way back. It's kind of like, I would think, how a long time ago they will do the explorations of this or this earth. They will take a boat and they go far away and then they find some land and they will burn the boats. That's the immigrant life. You go there and you burn the boats. It's like you're gonna make it or you're gonna die. There's no choice.
And so pressure can be a good thing. Do you agree with that?
It is in moderation. Of course, when we talk about stress, there's so many times we use exactly the same image of there is a gazelle and it's just in peace, eating grass. And then there is a tiger and it's going to attack. And then, right. So the stress sometimes could be a good thing and will help you actually to move. Because if you are so comfortable, like that mice at the beginning of our conversation, you will not want anything. You will never put clothes on because, well, it's nice and warm. So why would they do that? And if you look historically, geographically areas that were having more not it has to be a balance between where it's very comfortable and when it's not comfortable. And so let's say if something happens in the area where you always have the fruit and you always have everything catered to you because the environment providing you really don't strive to get anything better, or you will never think about to invent anything because you get everything what you want. But those areas, when you look historically, that thrived and civilizations really flourished, those places where they had the happy medium, where you can have maybe some area that you still need to produce something, you need to find the conflict and you need to solve it instead of just being everything provided for you. And I think having stress in your life, it's a good thing. By the way, even there is a good stress when you think about, let's say, changing jobs or getting married or, changing place where you live. This is, you probably heard a lot of people where they say, I just went on vacation and now I need another vacation from that vacation. So
That's
that
me.
is a good stress. Yes, because what is stress? Stress that is pushing you out of the comfort zone. So anything that outside of your everyday experiences that you can expect, what, you don't feel any anxiety because you know how it's going to be, is going to make you feel stressed. So it is a good thing if it's you using this as a fuel for you to move forward. Don't burn yourself. So, if you burn yourself and set yourself on fire because you're using so much of fuel, then there's nothing left of you. But if you put it in the balanced way and you even challenge yourself, and even simple thing that can help also to rewire your brain and make you, more alive, and you just can choose a different route to go to work. And you will see different things around you and your life will become actually more enriching. How many times do we, let's say, you go to work and then you come back and you don't even remember how that happened because you totally zone out. There is nothing happening in that route that you're discovering new. And then it looks like the time is passing by so much faster because you're like, I cannot believe it. It was Monday, now it's Friday. Where my life is going? Because you're not finding this new stimulus, meaning you're not putting yourself in a stressful situation. So you can create something new in your life that is propelling you to move forward, but make sure you do not burn yourself with overload.
One thing I find fascinating is, the people who look successful on the outside are actually exhausted internally, and you can see it. And why do so many successful people they feel exhausted by the very life they worked so hard to build? You did this, you built this, but you're exhausted from it.
It's the fear of abandonment. That's the only one way how I can say, and that's not only me that I saying that. That's like proven if you look at the way we think. And the most important part is for us to be excluded from the group because naturally humans we are herd animals. We need to belong to the group. And many times I've seen with the CEOs that I coach, they already build their fame and fortune, and they have, success, and they get even rewards, and they sit in that place and they're afraid now to do anything different. And when I tell them that you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of everyone else, they feel ashamed. They feel guilty of taking care of themselves because they believe if they will change something, they will disappoint people in their lives. There's something that I discovered on my own, and maybe obviously that's not like a new idea or anything, but I always ask myself, like, why do we continuously doing the same thing that we know is not working? That's called madness, right? When you're continuously doing the same thing and you know it's not going to work. And then also I realized when I was coaching a lot of my clients, I would tell them, hey, you can do this and this and that. And did you try anything new today? That even taking 1 minute every hour, even just do 3 breaks, 1 break, they will hesitate to change anything because of fear of what other people will think about me. If my success will change, I'm losing the control over things. But also the number one thing I realize is the loyalty. Is the loyalty to the people in your life, is the loyalty to the patterns that you learn how to live your life. It's the loyalty to your own identity that if you change anything in your life, you will change yourself. You're afraid to lose that. That's our brain is survival. It's like we don't want to change anything, otherwise we're going to die. And especially has to do when we have our relationships. And if somebody, let's say they are successful and now they want to step back, they feel the loyalty to the other people of, they think, oh my gosh, if I'm going to change, if I'm going to do something different, they will discard me. I will not have approval anymore. I will not have validation anymore. Hence, I'm going to die. And I think that's another reason why a lot of people say, I want to be successful. And they start a diet or they start some program and they fail in 3 or 4 months. It is not because maybe they didn't feel like the drive was over or they couldn't succeed or they losers or whatever. It is about the loyalty because we are loyal to our family, our culture, our patterns because we're going to die. Remember, if we're going to change that. So then we stay with the people, with the culture, with the pattern in order to be loyal. Because when we break the loyalty to something, we die. So then it comes to, we need to be as a society to the point that we need to honor our needs. When somebody says, I want to take a break, that person should be able to go take a break and not wear this badge of honor. So the moment when we start taking care of ourselves, I think that will change environment, not only that we can say, hey, now I'm doing this. And everybody says, cool, I like it. I'm supporting you, what you do. That doesn't threaten me. I'm because I am secure in myself and I'm taking care of my needs. And we do not think that self-respect is a bad thing. It's honoring your needs is selfish. So the point of view about the stress and how we handle that is going to change everything else, I believe.
Lalita, if someone is listening right now and achieved everything that they thought they wanted, I mean, the success, the recognition, the money, but still felt unhappy, what do you think that tells us about the way we define success?
The first question someone needs to ask, be successful or not, is why are you doing what you're doing? And I want to introduce my calm process. That is very quick for those who don't have time to read my books and follow me on learning. Calm stands for C. You need to identify, can you control something? So if somebody is stressed out in whatever the environment or any situation particularly, they need to ask, can I control this? Because if you cannot control it, like other people, environment, politics, weather, you can't. But you can control your attitude. Then A stands for appreciation or acceptance. I believe there's always silver lining in anything. And then you really need to make a list of things or really think about it. What is that you're doing? And then differentiate. Is this working? Is this not working for me? That's the thing. Are you continuing that madness? And then it becomes very important is L starts for limiting. Limiting the things that doesn't work. And that is the key for the whole thing, for your whole stress situation is you need to ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you believe it's serving you? Is this helping you? Because a lot of clients will come to me, the one question everybody hates when I start asking them, how is this serving you? So when somebody is overloaded, they're very successful, but they still working 60 hours a week. Someone needs to ask themselves, how is this serving me? And that is a good question to ask, because we will come down to the point of, I have to do this. Okay. Why you have to do this? Because I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint people. What will happen if you disappoint people? They're going to abandon me. Why are you afraid that the people will just abandon you? I'm going to feel alone and I'll feel useless. The M stands for multiplying what works. And that is what helps your stress, is to identify things that you love doing it, even for 5 minutes. Let's say, I hear somebody says, oh, I love reading books about my business, my kids. I don't have time for this. And they say, okay, that's okay. You create a list of things that you love doing it. Many people don't even know what they love doing, because they've been taught that doing something that you want is selfish. And how dare you to be selfish? You should be continuously producing and validating and pleasing other people. So a lot of them who come from environments or families who are very controlling and very success driven, and you're going to be a doctor because I'm a doctor, those individuals don't even know what they like. And so when I ask them, make a list of things that you want to do for yourself only, they like in silence. They're like, I don't even know. Or they say, yeah, I like having coffee or reading a book. And I say, why do you like that? And they say, because my father used to read a lot of books. So that's not really you. So have courage to find what is you, what you like, and then even doing small thing every day, it will show you that you're honoring your needs. Like I mentioned before, when you honor your needs, you build trust within yourself that you can take care of yourself. And someone who is overloaded right now, if they will do one thing a day that makes their heart sing, and even let's say somebody says, I love reading books, but I don't have time for this. How about you read one page? Tell yourself, I'm going to read one page. And in addition to, you give yourself grace by telling yourself, I'm going to do the best I can to honor my needs. But if tomorrow is going to be so busy and I cannot read one page, it's okay. Because you have to be forgiving and giving grace to yourself. And I will never forget how, when we find out that it's very important how you talk to yourself and how you deal with your emotions, how you see yourself, how you value yourself. Most of the time, we don't love ourselves enough. So we're extra hard with ourselves. So giving yourself grace and really talking to yourself like a best friend could be a very big change. But it's so worth it, because the moment you start doing something that helps you, you stop being afraid that you're breaking loyalty. You can start doing some things and you feeling more happy, and you realize that people that you were afraid that you're going to disappoint, they lived. Nobody died. And better yet, when you give it to yourself, you're also teaching your kids. How we can change the future? By changing what we do now with the generation that's coming. And if you, as a parent, and I know you said you are, if let's say you say, okay, now for 15 minutes, I'm just going to sit and enjoy my coffee. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to sit and contemplate and look at the horizon. Your kids will look, Dad, what you doing? Well, I am, taking care of my mental state now, so I can take care of you and everybody else. They will have permission to take care of themselves as well. So they will be a better parent for their children. And I think that's how we change the society.
Lolita, I just want to go back to your calm process. So it's four letters: C-A-L-M. What does the C stand for again?
Control. Can
Control.
you control and can you not?
And the A?
The A is acceptance or appreciation. L is for limiting what doesn't work, multiply what works.
That's nice.
It looks so simple, but it's like, that's a no-brainer. But the key is, why are you continuously doing what doesn't work, and why you would not do more what works?
Do you think people are chasing goals they never really chose for themselves? And I think you spoke a little bit about that. Your dad's a doctor, hence you can kind of become a doctor, but it's not
I
yours.
think it's all about the safety. It's about expectations that we don't want to disappoint other people, and a lot of fear of, if I will be different, I'll be discarded from the group, hence I'm going to die. So a lot of our goals that we do, we see other people doing it, and we think, if they are so admired, and I want to have all this fame and money, because then I'm safe, because brain wants to be safe and have enough food. But a lot of it has to do with being accepted, validated, and loved who we are. Especially that has to do when we want to please our parents and pick goals that being told that's a good job or a good position to have. And we don't even question, is it, do I love it or not? Because if we start questioning, then we will be punished for what we love. And then that's how we forget even and don't even allow ourselves to figure out what is that we really do love.
You speak about the silent stress that women carry, the expectation to succeed professionally and to support the family, then manage relationships, and then to hold everything together emotionally. But what pressures do women often carry that society don't fully acknowledge?
We need to get rid of martyrdom, being glorified or being stressed and burnout. And that's been through generations, thousands of years of, again, being stressed is a good thing, but especially it has to do with women. It's the mother needs to be giving and giving and giving. There was never a point of said the mother needs to relax. When you look about the big figures in our history, those were the givers. They provided something, new territories, or support or something. We don't have statues who said, "Oh, they did such a good self-development. They love themselves so much." Of course, there's a lot of narcissism, which is, I think, is at the opposite spectrum of a child who grew up in an environment that was not given what it needed, attention, love, and appreciation for who they are. Just a different extreme compare onto other side when somebody's struggling with addiction. That's just individual point how they handle that, what they have to deal with. But the women especially is, we have, the women needs to give and give and give the same as men. But there's a difference. And what really helped me a lot when I started studying about stress management is that women and men handle stress very differently. It also impacts today's environment, that we have a lot of women that getting more sick due to that high testosterone environment. And that was eye-opening for me, because men naturally, or let's say, would just say masculine energy, let's put it that way. It's all about driven for success, for producing, for delivering, for solving the problems. And the feminine energy is not forward moving, right? It's receiving and creating and hibernating. So that's what we have yin and yang. Let's say 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago, there were two things that were very different that we have right now that's causing a lot of problems for us. Number one, the families were, lots of generations were in the same house. So you have grandparents and parents and sisters and brothers, a lot of them were living in the same place. There are plenty of countries that still do that. And there's another thing, the women were not going to work. They were not going to testosterone-driven environment where we see now the businesses are. When you look at how women dress in the work environment, they look like men. Do they? Wearing pants, having jackets, because it's like, well, you need to look like a man in order to be accepted. And what happened with women specifically, when they went into the workplace, they expected to show more. There's so much stress for a woman than a man, because she needs to prove it to everybody at work that she can manage it. She needs to also prove it to her family that she can have a family, her own, and then she can have a career or even her own business. And what happens, those environments where you need to be on the go, constantly solving, constantly doing something, is testosterone driven. And testosterone is really not good for women, but testosterone is very good for men, because that's how men handle stress. You probably heard of, if the man is stressed out, let him go into the man cave, meaning separating. So the difference is, when we have a woman who needs to manage their stress, she needs to be among people. She needs to feel included. She needs to talk it out. That's why you can see a lot of women vent a lot, because this is how women handle stress. We talk it out. We talk it out, and we complete, feeling physical touch, a hug, and feeling included. So when you look at the family unit that is host, the house has more generations than just one. The women with other women, they can talk and they can help each other. Of course, there's a conflict too, but you'll never feel alone in the house, right? Somebody's going to take care of your kid if it's sick. And, the communities, and like when you look at the villages, everybody's child, what they say, it takes a village to grow a child, because it does, everybody's taking care of that child. Also, it helps a lot, that child that grows up in the environment, that no matter what happens, they will be taken care of, which is helping them to grow with mental state of thinking, I will never die from unknown or not enough food or anxious being alone or fear of abandonment because they're always taken care of. Somebody's going to keep an eye on them. But what's happening now in today's environment, when you have a family unit that lives by themselves, the mom, dad, and a kid, and the mom and dad goes to work, the kid goes to school, and there's a lot of separation immediately when the child is born. They put in the daycares and things. You are putting in that kind of environment child is really, this is where the fear of abandonment starts. So all the childhood trauma is done up to 7 years old. So when we separate the kids from the parents and from the care or from someone who can immediately give them attention, we instilling, if you're not going to produce, if you're not going to be good enough, you're going to die. And that's how we create slaves in today's society, continuously running towards horizon, and it's never enough because they feel to be abandoned. Now, how to take care of women and men's stress? I remember when I was married, I would have the same thing that would happen in my environment where a lot of my friends were dealing with. So the woman goes to work because it's a high testosterone environment. She comes back home and she's upset. So she's going to vent. She's going to start complaining about her work. The partner, who let's say is a masculine a masculine energy, will look at her and say, "Oh my gosh, I worked all day. I solved all those problems. I come back home, I cannot relax. Now I need to take care of her problems." Man brain works as solution driven. He immediately tells her, "Listen, you don't like your job? Go find something else." And then she says, "That's not what I'm saying. I'm just complaining." He's like, "I don't know. What's your problem? Go fix it." And that's what the conflict happens. But if the man would understand that all the woman needs is just to vent, and they come to conclusion that we're going to help each other by her coming stressed out and telling her, "Listen, I'm going to vent. I just need to talk." And then she talks it out. He just being there for her, gives her no solutions whatsoever. He just says, "Okay," just being present, listens and says, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that happened. Wow, you're doing so great." Let her talk for 5 minutes or whatever that is, and then give her a hug, because physical touch is very important for women to help to lower your stress. And then says, "You're so great. You're so good. You amazing mother. You're amazing in your job. You're going to do so great. You'll go through this. I'm so proud of you. Everything's going to be okay." And then give a hug. Magic happens. She immediately gets what she needs. But you see, now she's getting from her partner what you used to be getting from those multiple sisters, neighbors, and so other women. And then he gets his solution. He helps her and he becomes that supporter that he actually wants to be. Because when we really think about all the relationships, it's about to be happy, that both people will be happy in the relationship. So when we know that we handle stress very differently, we can help each other. So now when we say, okay, so how is the woman can help her partner when he is stressed out? Leave him alone. Give him the testosterone. And this is what they say: men needs to go hang out with other men. They need to go hunt, they need to go fish, they need to play video games, whatever that is to need to switch off. So let's say a wife's at home and the husband's come back home and he is, has a position that is a lot of testosterone driven, when he's like, needs to produce, he needs to team manage and all that. When he comes back home, she should not immediately jump on him and say, "Oh my God, you cannot believe it, little Billy went to school." No, leave him. For 10, 15 minutes, he needs to unwind. And when the wife knows, okay, he's just going to be there in his room and is going to unwind, he will come when he's ready. Then he's fully engaged, and then he can take care of her and the kids and whatever the life is going there. So when we understand that that's where this yin and yang is, not just yin or just yang, but the moment we realize that even if in this very stressful environment, from all the things that's happening in the news and all the jobs and all the life that's happening, if we can take care of ourselves and give each other what we need in order to support each other, I think, they will make us such a big difference of just understanding that we need to honor our needs, not because we need to be selfish and we better. It is because when we start helping ourselves, then we refill our own cup. So then we can help our partners, our kids, our employees, and our own society. So really starts everything from honoring your needs without shame and feeling guilty.
That's important. And I'm smiling and laughing because that is such a real example of what happens every day in almost every household. So, including mine, of course. Lolita, I'd like to shift the conversation slightly, to something that affects millions of women around the world. endometriosis. And we're in March, it's endometriosis month. And this is something that's close to my heart, more so because my wife has stage 4 endometriosis. Many women have lived with this condition for years before even receiving a diagnostics. I think it's 7 to 10 years. That's what the World Health Organization says. From your perspective, as someone who studies stress and emotional intelligence, what impact does living with chronic pain like that have on a person's mental health and emotional well-being?
You know, having those problems, it's actually very close to my heart because I struggle a lot with infertility as well. And I was learning a lot how stress impacts. As I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, that me not knowing how to handle my stress really impacted my hormones. And that's something that there are a lot of pills prescribed and all of that. But again, that has to do with our self care. And the stress is something that can not only do bad harm that has to do with fertility, but also it's inflammation in the body where the immune system cannot take care of all of that inflammation. And it's so, when you look at statistics, it's not the cancer that is the number one killer, it's the heart disease. And the heart disease is called from inflammation. And inflammation is caused by stress and, of course, other things, but stress is number one thing. Um, so a lot of, there was something that came to my mind now when I was reading a book about why stress is good for you, something like that. There was a research done that showed the cancer patients, specifically was a breast cancer. They did this research by when the new patient comes in, they will see how they think about themselves. Will they go immediately into a victimhood and thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this happened to me? And then they will be super people pleasing, meaning they will not really take care of their own needs because of that victimhood, because of the thing that I need to give and give, I need to please other people. I will be alive only when I'm a mother who is going through cancer, but still going to work and taking care of everyone. And they feel ashamed and guilty of taking care of themselves. And then there will be another group of people, a woman, who would say, okay, well, I'm sick now. Well, I'm not going to have, this is not going to happen. And then they change their life by stop working or working less, basically taking care of themselves. And the research showed that the women who start taking care of themselves, start honoring their needs, start saying no, those had high, very high percentage of survival. But those women who didn't take care of themselves, they had high mortality rates. So even simple things as having boundaries, as saying no, as stop feeling the shame that you need to take care of yourself. That's when you think about it, it's like that has nothing to do with pills. That has nothing to do with sleeping. That's just another part of it, but it's a huge part of how are you going to manage your stress? Where are you going to put your energy? Are you gonna, let's say, let's example, somebody invites you to the party and you don't want to go there, but you feel that you have to go there. The nice person will say, I'm going to be there no matter what. I'm going to bring the food. I'm going to bring the kids and everybody else. We're going to be there. And that is giving, giving, giving. The whole time that person is in that party, they feel resentful. They feel like they're depleting themselves. Are they honoring their needs? They're not. But if somebody who wants to take care of themselves, they will ask their own body and their own feeling like, how do I feel of going there? And if you feel, I don't want to go because I don't want to deal with those people, then don't go. But the patterns that we grow up of being afraid to say no, of putting our needs first, that's what has to change. So when somebody says, I am not going to that party because I don't want to, you immediately show to yourself that you're going to take care of your own needs and you want to honor yourself. And that is what stress is goes down because you're taking care of yourself. Now you're not in the party that's stressing you out. So there's so many things that we can do that does not involve big things. Even taking care of yourself by giving yourself something nice, by taking 1 minute a day or implementing something small, it can make a huge difference. And it doesn't have to, change all your life, but little things can make such a big change. So this is all starts and could be cancer survivals or any other fertility issues or any other hormone associated, everything when you really look about it, it's about stress and how we manage that.
Often, some of the ladies that I interviewed who suffer from this endometriosis, when they rock up at the doctor's rooms, they're often dismissed and they've been told, oh, it's normal or it's just a bad cramp. But this kind of dismissal, what does it do to you psychologically? The person's already
That
suffering.
is triggering your childhood trauma where your needs were not met. So, for example, if somebody grows up in the environment where they say, "Oh, I'm hungry," or "I'm cold," and a child is 3 years old, and the parent says, "No, you just ate," or "No, it's not cold," and you realize that your needs not gonna be met. But as a child knows that I have to please my parents in order to get my needs met, and then you've been told that your needs don't matter, then you grow up into adult of thinking my needs don't matter. So when you go to doctor and they tell you, no, this is a very normal thing. We place so much authority to doctors and we believe they gods when they're not. And somebody who has childhood experiences that being constantly told that whatever you think and feel is wrong, we want to believe those doctors. And if they say this is normal, we'll say, yeah, okay, this is normal. Because many women are already accustomed with suffering as of that's the full package of being a woman when you really think about it, it's not. So it's time for us to have enough courage to say, well, I'm suffering and I'm not going to believe you or you who tells me that that's normal. And I'm going to find some other ways how I'm going to take care of myself. So we need to stop believing the authorities. And that's also very related to the how we grew up in our childhood of how we see authority in general. Because when we are our children, when we're children, the authority is really our parents or caregivers, grandparents, whoever was really the primary caregiver. How they behave with us, this is how we're going to think about the rest of the authority. It has to do with teachers and our bosses or politicians. When we're afraid of authority, we will not question it because we know we were punished in the past. So we're even afraid to question authority because we think we're not going to survive. So we take how many cases that we know that doctors, there was a wrong prognosis and they were treating people for the wrong things. But then we still go on and say, oh yeah, well, that's okay. We need to stop and we say, I'm going to take care of my needs and I'm going to have the answers and I'm going to start doing something that's actually helping me. But having enough courage and saying, I am worthy of taking care of myself, that is the beginning.
Lolita, you also explore how men experience stress differently, And in many cultures, men are kind of told to suppress their emotions and you simply push through, don't cry. But how does that affect the way men then process stress?
So when somebody is being told that boys don't cry, and of course, we all know we all have feminine and masculine in us. We all do. Otherwise, we'll not be humans. We need to take care of both parts of us. We need to take care of no matter what part it is. So when somebody's being told that boys don't cry, you're abandoning yourself when you tell yourself you should not be crying because you're honoring what you've been told. You see, that's the loyalty of I'm going to be loyal to what's being told to me because I don't want to be disloyal to my parents. And if they told me that I should not be crying, I should not be crying. But by doing this, you're actually abandoning yourself.
Do you think silence has become a dangerous coping mechanism when it comes to emotional pressure?
Today, we live in a society that the number one pandemic is loneliness. Although it looks like we're very connected, but it is about the silence. But there are multiple levels of silence. Somebody could be talking a lot, but not saying much. Somebody could be looking that they are just so, amazing and they live such a great life. Like you said, there's so many successful people, but they're suffering because that is the silence that they don't want to tell anyone how they feel because they feel ashamed of themselves. That's again being taught to you as a child that whatever you feel is wrong and you should be ashamed of yourself. And there's so much of guilt and shame that's not helping to take care of yourself. So if you believe that you should not take care of yourself because it's selfish, you feel ashamed of that, you will not be talking out to someone. You will not be seeking help. You will not be going to a therapist or coach or someone, even doing that 1 minute exercise that I introduced today. You will feel that you need to abandon yourself in order to survive.
I want to talk a bit about burnout, and it's something that we hear about constantly today. I mean, it's a popular word, but many people don't realize they're heading towards burnout until they're already burning out. So, what are some of the early warning signs that people can look out for that hold on, you are heading in that direction?
One of the things that you mentioned is sleep. Somebody doesn't get enough sleep, and that's a very popular thing. But now, who has the luxury to sleep 7 or 8 hours, right? Especially those who have kids, like, or businesses. It's like you don't have enough time of the year. So I don't think that could be the only indication. But what helped me, and I know other symptoms, is when you start losing patience, when you get angry from little things. Let's say you're driving and somebody cuts off in front of you. You don't have bandwidth anymore to manage your emotions and your stress. So then you immediately become this rage of how they could do this to you. And then you take it so personally. It's because you don't have any more bandwidth to take care of stress when you really think nothing happened. Just somebody just crossed in front of you. But you were so loaded that you needed to release that stress. When you feel resentful, also among, against people, or groups or things you do or projects that you're working on, or even if you go into the gym every day and then you're like, I hate this, and you're still pushing through it, like, definitely maybe has nothing to do with the gym, but has to do with maybe you don't have enough time to take care of yourself and your own needs because you're being pushed to do some other things and you're feeling resentful. That's mean you're not replenishing yourself, and that's why it makes you feel angry, because your boundaries being pushed into the place where you cannot handle it anymore. So someone who thinks, well, how can I look at the burnout, is this is only when I become aggressive or resentful? No, also could be the complete opposite, is when you don't care anymore. When you're like, I don't care. Like, you lose productivity, you lose how people will look at you. That's like one of the stages that you're like, I don't even care how that's going to go. And you even stop taking care of yourself, of like, I'm not gonna even go to the gym, I'm gonna eat a donut, so on. So, and what we're looking at is, what are the extremes. When you're observing your life and you see that now you're doing something or you're reacting with extreme, could be something that you go very loud or extra silent. That's mean you're already in the place where you really need to start taking care of your health, because after that your body keeps the score. So you will start seeing physical things that start happening, and especially those who already have conditions that has to do with the immune system, that is really signaling that you are not taking care enough of your stress. That's why your immune system is overloaded and cannot take care of other triggers that's happening in your body.
I want to ask you, and you mentioned you gave a few examples. Is there a difference between survival mode and actually living?
It's all depends on how we see things. So, they say, when you change how you see things, things change, or something like that. There was a research done, and I got it from the same book where they were talking about why stress is good for you. The changing the point of view about something can change already your energy levels, and it puts you in the stress or out of it. So let's say there was a research done. There was a group of oncology doctors that they were meeting every week to talk about the cancer patients. And most of the time, they will be talking very sad stories. And a lot of that was about shame and guilt and regret of saying, I had the surgery, the patient lived just another month and they died. And, I'm feeling like I'm a loser and I failed the system and I failed the family. So the experiment was done. They split that group in two. And the first group, they told them to continue doing whatever they're doing. When before then, they really measured their blood pressure, they evaluated them physically, how the body will react to that. And the first group was doing what they were doing, sitting and, being ashamed of themselves pretty much. And then the second group, they told them to change the point of view. So instead of saying the patient lived only 1 month, they said the patient lived a whole month longer because I did the surgery. So he had enough time to take care of their business, to say goodbye to their family, to appreciate life and still end up in a better place before that surgery would have happened. And then they started paying attention to the good things, what was working. From my calm process, the M is multiply what works. So they started multiplying what worked, and they changed the point of view, how they see things. And you probably know how that story ends, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you that the second group, they got more optimistic. They were celebrating their victories, and naturally, their bodies were managing their stress much better, because it's all about, your mind doesn't know what's really happening. Your feelings about that, that's what really impacting you. You know what they say? Don't say, oh, I'm so stressed out. Say, I'm excited. Like, oh, I'm excited about this meeting. Like, don't say, I'm so stressed out about this meeting. I don't know how I'm going to perform. You say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this meeting. Your body still has the same heartbeat. You're still sweating. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. But when you assign a different meaning to that, your body says, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. Because when you think and you feel right now, who's listening, and how is this feels when you're stressed out and when you're excited? It's a very different feeling, right? But your heart is still racing and your palms sweating. It's all about the point of view, how you're going to look at things. And, when I came to that conclusion that I'm going to implement this more in my life, now when somebody cuts in front of me in the traffic or they're speeding away, I used to be very upset. That's how I know. That was a burnout of like, how could it do this to me? They don't even know me, but I would take so personally. Now I assign a different meaning to this. And I said, they really need to use the restroom. And now I don't stress because I assign different meaning. I'm not taking this personally anymore. I found the reason why other people do what they do, and it has nothing to do with me. So really, when I was researching about stress, how it impacts our lives and what can we do about it, it doesn't really take that much. But the point is actually doing it.
I almost want to say it's like saying, is your glass half full or is your glass half empty? And and that can actually determine the outcome of the way you look at a scenario, I would think. Do you think most people today are truly living their lives, or are they simply just surviving them?
Surviving, because that's what we've been taught to do. That's again goes to that loyalty of, I am afraid to be successful. I'm afraid to be happy. I'm afraid to take care of myself. I am afraid that now I will not wear a badge of honor. I am afraid to meditate now because my parents never did. I'm afraid what other people will say because of that survivalism. And that's why I recommend all my clients that come work with me to start doing small things and build trust with yourself that nobody will die because you read a book. Nobody will die because you're not going to speed on the highway. Actually, probably very accurate. We will save lives if we'll stop speeding and take attention. And when somebody, especially with a lot of those childhood traumas of loyalty issues, what they're afraid even to do anything for themselves and they feel ashamed and guilty, when they start doing small thing, even that 1 minute, and you see that nobody died, I mean, again, please don't do anything that will harm other people. Okay, to make yourself happy, just a disclaimer. But when you allow yourself to help yourself feel better, and then you start building on that, and then you say, oh, you know what? I did 15 minutes today, and I feel better, and nothing much changed. And just because I say no to this project, actually, they respect me more now. Because when I was researching about setting boundaries, this is that if somebody constantly who says yes, nobody respects them, because when you say yes to everything, that means you're not being honest, not with the other person, not with yourself. So when you start implementing small things, you see that life is going to get better. You build trust with yourself, and then of course leads to better victories. And then you help you manage your stress and improve your health.
Lalita, if the version of who you was at the height of burnout, if you think back, could see the person you've become today, what do you think she would say?
She probably say, I cannot believe that you did that, because I was a very different person. And how one can measure their progress when you are placed in the same situations in life, but now you react differently to them, then you see how far you went. Like, for example, about the same traffic, I used to get very triggered and personally angry at people who cut me off. And I realized, actually, just last week, I kind of giggled and I thought to myself, this is like a next level of enlightenment. When somebody's really rushing and cut in front of me, I allow them to cut in front of me, and they don't even thank me for it. And I am okay of not even being thanked. I was like, wow, that's a new level of enlightenment, because I don't need anything from that other person, and I'm not taking anything as personal and threatening anymore.
That version of yourself back in the day, what did she need the most at that time?
Validation of being okay, of you doing the right thing.
You've worked with a lot of people from around the world. What sort of pattern do you see again and again in human behavior?
I get asked this question a lot because, I change countries, and it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what culture you're in. It doesn't matter what language or religion. The human condition, number one thing what I see, it's fear of abandonment. being excluded from the group. That is what scares us because we think only about survival, and that is causing us a lot of problems.
If people understood how powerful their minds are, do you think they'd actually live differently?
I think it's not about understanding how powerful you are. It's about allowing yourself to be that. That again goes to that loyalty of allowing yourself to be. If you, let's say, you grew up in an environment that you've been told not to be your best, you will be afraid to be your best. So having a good tool in the pocket, like your mind, it really depends, are you using it and are you allowing yourself to use it? And if you don't, you need to ask yourself why you don't allow yourself not to use it. What are you afraid is going to happen that's so threatening to you?
If someone's listening right now and they're feeling overwhelmed or they kind of stuck in where they are, what is the first small step that they can take right now, today, to begin changing that?
Identifying something that they continuously doing that doesn't work and ask themselves what can I change, can they change about that? And if they think, well, I really cannot change that, you can ask, what is the small thing that I can still do to help myself to feel better? Or one thing that is helps everyone, no matter you want to solve your problems or not, that has purely about stress management, which I already kind of mentioned, to do something that you love doing, at least one thing, at least for a very short time. It's not that only gives you a break. It's not that only gives you happiness because you're doing something that you want. But the third, the most important part is you honoring your needs. And that builds self trust that helps you to manage stress now or in the future.
Lalita, on those wise words, thank you for being such an honest and having such a meaningful conversation. And thank you for helping us understand stress in a way that feels human and practical and deeply relatable. And this has been Voices Unfiltered. I want to thank you again and thank you for trusting this space with your personal story. I'm very grateful and appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.